Beneath the surface lies a world we rarely see, a place where life flows, struggles and survives. From still canals to rushing rivers, our watery ways tell stories of nature's beauty and mankind neglect. This is more than just water, this is our lifeline, our legacy, this is our watery world. Across the country, these waterways connect communities, wildlife, generations of anglers. But beneath the calm, there's a growing crisis: pollution, neglect, and silence. We've spoken to those who rely on the rivers, who fight to protect them, and who have seen the damage firsthand. Because to save our waterways, we need to listen. For those who cast a line, these waters are more than just a drop back. They're a way of life. Every ripple holds a memory, every catch is a connection. But for those moments are under threat, from fish kill to algae blooms, the signs are clearer than ever. And it's not just anglers who feel the change. Wild swimmers, once drawn to the calm and beauty of these rivers, now facing rising health risks. Reports of skin infection, sewage spills, chemical runoff have turned peaceful swims into moments of caution. The waters are speaking. We need to start listening. For decades, the health of our waterways has been quietly declining. Industry waste, agricultural runoff, and outdated sewage systems have left their mark. The damage isn't always visible, but the effects ripple through an entire ecosystem. Fish stocks are falling, insects and plant life are vanishing, and if the water suffers, everything around it does too. But there is hope. From grassroots cleanup groups to local angling clubs, people are fighting back, restoring habitat, testing water quality, demanding answers. Because communities come together, real change can happen. While our focus today is on the Midlands, the impact of water pollution stretches far beyond these borders. In Ireland, communities are also grappling with similar issues, and the work being done there can provide a crucial insight into how we can protect our waterways on a larger scale. One such individual is Damien, an expert from Ireland who has been at the forefront at tackling water pollution and advocating sustainable practices. Let's hear from what he has to say about the broader impacts of waterway health and lessons that we can learn from across the Irish Sea.
Well, summing it up in itself, James, I've been involved not just in England, but I'm in a rural area here. My playground has been the river since I was a child. And there was, we hear these stories nowadays of how children, aren't allowed outside and they're not getting outside. That was complete. That whole element had been foreign to us because we ran the rivers, we ran the streams, we climbed the trees. And I don't mean just outside the front door. We were on a farm of about 100 acres, you see. Now, the farm's only a hill rural farm. It wouldn't be a farm of intensity or... In fact, my father would be quite an environmentalist, There would be no nutrient added onto the fields, no chemical fertilizers or slurries. He's organic in approach, but he doesn't know it because he's one of the old school. If you get me drift with that, he just knows that he doesn't abuse the ground. So we had that just basically as a playground there. I had become just fascinated by everything that was nature and everything that lived. What was underneath water was really the one to me, when you stood as a child thinking, what's underneath there? And my grandmother then highlighting to me as a young child, reaching for a stone and showing me those little invertebrates stuck to the underside of the stone. They were just something alien to me. I thought, what is these things? It was mind-boggling. In 1989, now I would have been 11 years of age at the time, that local river of mine was polluted. I suddenly seen everything that existed.
The challenges we face aren't just isolated to one region. From Ireland to the Midlands, waterways are under threat, but the efforts being made to protect them are growing stronger every day. The work of experts like Damien Dennett provide valuable lessons showing us change is possible when we take action, no matter how daunting the task may seem. But the real driving force for change lies within the communities themselves. Here in the Midlands, local anglers, conservationists and concerned citizens are stepping up. Determined to make a difference, from testing water quality to organising cleanup efforts, the fight to restore these vital waterways is in full force. Now let's hear from someone who has a personal stake in the health of our waterways. Alex Wright, the owner of a key stretch of river here in the Midlands, has witnessed firsthand the effects of pollution and environmental change. For him, this isn't just an issue of science or policies, it's about the land and the people who rely on it.
I mean, for this stretch in particular, we're incredibly blessed to have a vast array of biodiversity, both in the water and out of the water. The biggest threat that we face is undoubtedly pollution incidents, because there's nothing we can do about it. We can assist in the aid of overpredation by invasive species and cormorants and minks. We're blessed to have an ecology agreement on a section of the land further upstream where we monitor those numbers relentlessly and get given annual reports on their general behaviour and breeding patterns. So there's always something we can do if it's external to the water. However, pollution incidents are by definition devastating to us. They really are. Oh, undoubtedly, yeah. So we've noticed the nesting patterns of some of our birds. We have a resident set of very aggressive swans, which all the fishermen are quite affectionate with. And their nesting behaviour and breeding patterns have been very scattered. They tends to be off the back of when we notice a pollution incident. Second to that, of course, we've had a particularly bad incident about 2 years ago now, whereby there were some areas that you couldn't see the top of the water. It was that thick with dead fish. We were told that they were from upstream, that they weren't from our section, but we don't really believe that. Yeah, it's been bad. I mean, pollution is the direct cause of the majority of fish death. Obviously, it's a predated water. With the cormorants pass by, we have one otter who never seems to find a partner. We've got a couple of American mink, but I can't say that there's any real evidence that we've found of them overpredating the water. You see the odd fish on the bank, it's eaten, it's a small roach. What we do see though is when there is a pollution incident, I mean quite literally tens of thousands of dead and dying fish. And then we directly see the effect of that when it comes to the opening of the next season, where there's typically thousands and thousands of small fish, first summer fish. You just don't see it. And we didn't see it for a good 2 years. We didn't see the typical shoals of young fish and tiny slithers of pike that we'd normally see knocking around some of the still and slack areas. They're just gone. I mean, there is a fairly consistent suspicious brown foam. Nothing that we've seen causing abject harm to the fish, but there are times after periods, especially of heavy rain, that we notice strange smells and accumulation of brown foam against overhangs, branches and snags that seems to accumulate. Obviously, it's exacerbated by the fact we have a weir. We have a very large section of highly oxygenated water coming off the back of the weir. And that tends to stir up a lot of bubbles where the foam can collect. But yeah, it's a direct cause. These aren't suspicions. I'm first and foremost an angler. I spend an awful lot of my life on the bank and on the rivers. And we see it firsthand. Problem is documenting it to the water companies. The last major pollution incident, when we came down to where we were standing now, we wouldn't be able to film in. We'd be underwater in thick foam. It accumulated off the branches of the snags of these willow trees that we're sort of shot between at the moment. And it was above my head. We were having to push the foam aside to try and get to where the swans nest, which is typically just behind us, but they haven't this year, to make sure that their young were safe and that the swans were still alive. Yeah, so they're dealt with, but typically we contact the environmental agency and make them aware of it. That typically rolls into several days of reporting it and requesting that somebody gets down here to investigate it. So far we've only had one successful visit from the Environment Agency, to which they sent a team of people to conduct water quality samples. Nothing was heard from them since. We called and called and called in the weeks leading up to them, trying to find some answer of how long is this going to go on for, how many more thousands of dead fish are going to float down our river and accumulate at my friend's stretch, which is a few miles downstream. He got the worst of it, a lot of slack water. That's where most of our fish that passed away and fish from upstream accumulated. And eventually, I think it took 2 weeks of calling them back to back, demanding answers, that we had a verdict that it was motorway spill-off. And that was the answer that we were left with, and no further action could be taken. None at all. None. Obviously, we try and be conscious as a fishery to provide safe spawning areas and not to disturb. So we have, long stretches upstream where lots of snags and accumulating grasses and lilies and weeds that we designate as no fishing zones. Should we see the signs, so typically this time of year, we're patrolling up and down the banks, trying to see where the pike and the larger fish are sitting on top of each other, getting ready to spawn, and we'll designate that no fishing until we're confident that come the new season, there's not going to be any disturbance to their breeding patterns. That's as much as I believe we can do as fishery owners. Anything else is unfortunately down to the water companies. I think there's a number of ways. If you're talking about in relation to maintaining water quality, there's lots of good incentives being driven by the organisation Angling Trust and their water quality monitoring network. I implore anybody who's actually keen on making a difference or making any modicum of an impact on the situation we're dealing with the water companies and our rivers to jump on their website. You don't have to sign up. I'm not trying to recruit for them. I'm in no way affiliated. But our relationship with the Angling Trust has been a phenomenal tool in us being able to access resources such as professional water quality testing that isn't done by the Environment Agency, as well as their backing of Fish Legal, who, as I'm aware, are like the biggest prosecutor of bringing this issue to the public attention and to the courts eventually, to try and figure out how we stop this decimation of our watercourse. How does the world around you seem? How does the nature in an area seem? We're sitting here now and we can hear the birds chirping, and I can see spiders crawling along that tree above us, and it looks all good. Well, I don't really know if there's an answer in that for you now. Yeah. I don't know, there might be a soundbite in amongst all of that, but I don't really know an answer.
To be fair, the main interview won't be like one long thing I'll cut between.
Yeah, I know.
So the last question is, if things don't improve, what do you think the future looks like for the stretch of water?
I mean, I've got big concerns. Compared to others and compared to some friends of mine who own stretches further downstream and upstream, the Southampton Mill as a venue is incredibly well positioned to survive. We're blessed by having highly oxygenated water, slack pools off to the side, where the rivers broke out, and back gullies where fish can hide from predators. And we're incredibly lucky that we've got such amazing biodiversity right at our feet. It's an amazing life cycle, and for them to meet their demise here, it's a farce, man. It's awful.
Not far from here, in the heart of Yorkshire, two swimmers mostly enjoy the calm lake waters, share their unique experience in the world of open water swimming. Despite their love for open water swimming, both have seen the effects of pollution firsthand.
But also, because it's quite highly populated, there's a lot of sewage, there's a lot of wastewater, and we know that after it's rained a lot flushes into it. So the quality, in Windermere, the quality of the water isn't that great compared to the smaller lakes where not a lot of tourists go, to be honest. You got to drink a pint of full fat Coke, haven't you, after a swim, because it kills everything you swallow.
It's a really awkward one, isn't it, James? Because I think the water companies are struggling as it is, and they've got the costs up for a number of reasons. So my honest opinion is that I don't think cleaning the water so it is fit for people to swim in is at the top of the priorities.
Now we turn to another crucial voice in the conversation, the Secretary of the Leamington Angling Association, with years of experience managing and advocating for health of the local fisheries. Anthony Simmons offers a unique perspective on how pollution and environmental change are impacting not just fish, but the anglers themselves.
When we talk about the health of our rivers, it's important to take the long view. Take the Warwickshire Avon. Decades ago, it suffered from industrial pollution, weak regulation and raw sewage. But thanks to EU regulations and action by the Environment Agency, things have changed. That once muddy brown river now runs clearer, supporting more plant life, invertebrates, and around 15 species of fish. Biodiversity has improved massively, but clearer water brings new challenges. Fish feel more exposed and hide from predators, including us anglers. Still, sewage pollution is a big issue. Water companies have been dumping untreated sewage to cut costs. The good news? With the rise of social media and data collection tools like the Angling Trust's WQMN, the public is fighting back. Data is power. And while the River Wye has been in the news for farm pollution, matches like the two-day River Wye Festival show the river can still produce impressive catches, nearly 800 pounds of fish in one day. The key point here? Rivers change slowly, over many years, and while sewage discharges are still a concern, things have improved since the 1980s, even if it doesn't always feel that way. So when we hear terms like crisis or disaster, we should pause, because in the world of rivers, change is always relative.
By the picturesque Saxon Mill, I had the chance to speak to two more passionate open water swimmers. Unlike the swimmers we heard from earlier, these individuals regularly brave themselves in rivers. Despite the challenges and concerns about water quality, their experiences offer a different perspective on what it's like to swim in these waterways and why they continue to do so. I met up with Jessica and Trisha, who shared their thoughts on swimming in the rivers near the Saxon Mill, a popular spot for local open water swimming enthusiasts. While they acknowledge the risks, their connections to the water run deep. They feel an undeniable sense of responsibility to protect and preserve these areas.
Algae. Yeah. We're at the Saxon Mill today, and sometimes in the winter months it can be worse, but it's quite calm and it's quite cleansing today, to be honest with you. It definitely improved. Yeah, definitely.
Lakes and seas many years ago, but it was only sporadic. So I was working, I had children, so I'd go in occasionally. And then there was one particular day I was over with my friend in Northern Ireland, that's probably about 6-7 years ago, and we went into the Carlingford Loch, which is from a sea inlet, and it was really, really bouncy and windy and rainy, and we came out of there and we were completely buzzing all day. So we'd caught the bug. So that was the start of my serious swimming, and since then I've just embraced it and love it. And I come here quite often because it's close by. I've noticed, you can see the difference in the water quality throughout the seasons. We also have an app that we look at to see the quality of the water. We see lots of litter around, particularly when it's nicer weather, so we can look after that. The water quality has changed both in the rivers and the seas. I go down to East Devon quite a bit, and sometimes Exmouth you can't swim because you'll get the alert that says there's sewage there. Sometimes, not very often, have I come here and thought, I won't get in, but occasionally you do get a slight whiff of something. I never put my head in here anyway, so it's a personal thing. I use my eyes, my ears, look at the app, and then make my decision as to whether I'll go in. And most of the time I go in. The public are more aware because there's so much in the news. I think people should be aware. He was right. We've got a right to be able to swim and use our waters safely. We shouldn't have to use our nose and think, can I get in it? So very important, I think, for the public to be aware. Well, I think we do, because we come here and pick up on the bank, we pick up litter and leave it better than we came, if there is any litter. And I've also picked up litter in the river as well and brought that and put it in the bin. Yeah, and thanks Val, we've seen fishermen lines and hooks dangling from trees that the swans and the wildlife might get caught on them. So we've taken them out. So we just keep our eye open and try and keep it as tidy and clean as possible. Look after it. And actually, we went, Karen and I that has had to go, we went to a march in London. I think it was in October time. And that was a march for clean waters. Chris Packham was there. And over in Belfast there was a similar one, and Fergal Sharkey was there. So it's just bringing it to the public's awareness, really, and lobbying governments to do something about it. The pollution and stuff from the farmers, sewage, you name it. Right, I would say do it, because it really improves mind, body, soul and spirit. It's so uplifting, which is why I keep doing it. I would say I'm addicted to it. And I would say to anybody thinking about it, get yourself really well, get your knowledge base good. So you know what the water does to your body, you know how to manage in cold water, you know how to breathe. Join a group such as the Blue Tits. Don't swim alone. And get out there and enjoy it.
Water is part of our lives. It gives us moments of peace, brings people together, and supports the world around us. But our rivers, lakes, are under pressure from pollution, waste, and neglect, leaving their mark. We all have a part to play in protecting our waterways. By taking care now, we can keep them healthier for the future. This is our home. This is our watery world.